All right, so first off, I want to say all praise to Yahweh in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the Prophets of Doom. These are where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth, and also Shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number. Okay, so the other day we did a video on, but we're starting to go into a series about the beast. All right, but first we did Daniel 2, an explanation. And what I had mentioned reading Daniel 2, the second chapter of Daniel, in the NLT and also in the Good News translation, even though we referred to the NLT while we were doing those previous three videos. So now it hit me today that instead of going right into Daniel 2, the reading of, I think it's important that we start at Daniel 1. So today is going to be a reading, or this video is going to be a reading on Daniel 1. I don't know if we're going to elaborate on certain scriptures or not. Right, the Spirit is going to have us do whatever, all right, happens. So that is what this video is going to be. It's going to be Daniel, the first chapter, and also I'm going to read this in the King James version and get some insight on Daniel and his lot, all right, the role that he plays. Which first I do want to again, I want to go into his name and see what it means. All right, so Daniel, let me get here first in the book, and then we'll get on the computer and go to the Blue Letter Bible and pull up Daniel, the first chapter, and go into the interlinear and see what it says about his name. All right. And I did have another lesson that I was starting to go into, but these windows closed up. It seems I did keep the title. Yeah, I did keep the title, so Lord willing, all right, that'll come back up. All right, if not, and we move on, then that's just what it is. All right, so anyway, let's go here to Daniel 1, okay? Okay, Daniel 1 and 6 is where Daniel's name appears first in Daniel. Yeah, Daniel 1 and 6 is where his name appears first in Daniel, the first chapter. All right, so let's go ahead and click in here, go to the interlinear and see what his name brings up, and then we'll go into the reading, okay? I think it's Danyala. Damn, excuse me. Okay, which means Daniel, it says here, it means God is my judge, or Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai is my judge. Okay. Outline of biblical usage, it also says the fourth of the greater prophets taken as hostage in the first deportation to Babylon, because of the gift of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, of the interpretation of dreams. He became the second in command of the Babylon Empire and lasted through the end of the Babylonian Empire and into the Persian Empire. His prophecies are the key to understanding the end time events, noted for his purity and holiness by contemporary prophet Ezekiel. It says also Belteshazzar. All right, I think I misspoke when I had which I don't know who gave Daniel the name. I don't know if it was, I think we get into that, but I don't know if this guy called him Belteshazzar through the king Nebuchadnezzar calling him that, or if the guy came up with the name on his own. But I think it was the king Nebuchadnezzar, like we stated the other day. But it may be clear as we read on. All right. So again, Strong's definition, Daniela. It says judged of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the reading. I'm gonna read from the book. All right, if we need a computer, we'll go ahead and go into it. But I do want to read from the book. Again, this is the reading of Daniel chapter 1 in the King James Version. The summary it gives here says, chapter 1, Jehoiakim's captivity. Ashpenaz taketh Daniel. Hananiah, which is oh my gosh, I know it's going to go into it, but I should know this. So Abednego is Azariah. Okay. So Hananiah is, let me see, Meshach, Shadrach is Hananiah, and Meshach is Mishael. All right. Anyway, to go on with the summary, it says, Ashpenaz taketh Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They, refusing the king's portion, do prosper with posts and water, their excellency in wisdom. So yeah, let's use this computer really quick. And what I would want to do here is go look at verse 17 and go into what is posts. All right. Excuse me. Let's see. Excuse me. Verse 8. So verse 8 reads, and we're going to read this. I just want to go into this word, okay? Let's see. Okay. All right, we'll go straight to the point because we are going to read all of this. Daniel 1 and 12. It says, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. And I'm going to go into this before we read, just so you can keep that in mind, what pulse is, okay? Oops. Okay, yeah, so interlinear. Let's go look at what pulse is. Here's the word.
Strong's H2235. Zeroim. Zeroim. And the form just below that, Zereonim. Zereonim.
Okay, so, excuse me. I know I'm clearing my throat a lot, but excuse me. Okay, it says outline of biblical usage. It says vegetables as sown. Strong's definition of zeroin. It says something sown, only in the plural. It says i.e. a vegetable as food or pulse. So I also want to go here to Google and ask what are some examples of pulse foods. Okay. Pulse foods are the dried edible seeds of leguminous plants. Common examples include chickpeas, lentils, beans like kidney beans, black beans, and pinto beans, and dry peas such as split peas and black-eyed peas. All right. So these things are really healthy for you. All right. So that is what pulse is. When we get down to that verse where Daniel speaks of these pulse, Daniel speaks of pulse, you'll understand it now. All right. I might have to pause this for a quick second, so give me a minute before we start the reading. Hold on a second. All right. Okay, so we gave examples of pulses or pulse. So let's go ahead and we went over the summary. So let's go ahead and get to reading now. Again, this is Daniel chapter 1 in the King James Version. All right, it says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of Yahweh Bahoshem Yahushai, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his power. All right. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his power. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring a certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Now, that verse right here just made me think of in Daniel 2 when he explained the image, okay, that had the 4 dominions, the 4 power structures, which was Babylon, this kingdom here that he is in, that he got taken to, and then it was the Medo-Persian kingdom, and then it was the Greeks, and then it was the Romans. But it started with the head of gold, right? And kingdoms, yes, they took over, but they, what was that word that we talked about the other day? Oh my gosh. They degraded, all right? They were less of a quality of a kingdom, although they did take over, okay? And this one thing right here that we just read about, they wanted their captives, okay, they wanted the best of the best, knowledgeable, Okay, strong, nice on the eye. All right. If you think about the way the kingdom is now, and excuse me, I don't know what this camera is focused on. I hope it's not too close. But if you focus on this kingdom here, all right, the great Babylon the Great, all right, America, when we came here, all right, when the Israelites came here, they didn't want anyone reading. They didn't want anyone knowledgeable. Okay? They just wanted, yes, the best physical, but they wanted you to be dumb. Okay? They didn't want you to read. All right? They damn sure didn't want you to read and teach other Israelites. Okay? So that's another pin in the degradation of the kingdoms as time went on. All right? So, verse 5, it says, and the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. Okay, so it was the prince of the eunuchs gave names to them. Okay, for he gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar. All right, the king's name is Nebuchadnezzar. His son's name is Belteshazzar, but Daniel's name is Belteshazzar. Okay, Belteshazzar. And to Hananiah of Shadrach. Okay, so he gave the name to Shadrach, Hananiah. Okay, or he gave Hananiah the name Shadrach. All right, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. Okay, so Abednego's name, true name is Azariah. Meshach's true name is Mishael. Shadrach's true name is Hananiah. And Belteshazzar, true name is Daniel. Okay, as we read in the name. Okay, it says also Belteshazzar. Okay, verse 8, it says, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So this is Old Testament, all right, which points out, all right, that even they denied themselves these things of other nations because they wanted to stick in line with what the Lord had commanded, all right? And that follows from here to the New Testament to the Apocrypha, okay? So for all you people who feel like you can eat shrimp just because you think the Lord died in order for you to eat shrimp, that's BS. All right, you think the Lord died for you to eat ham, swine, any kind of swine, that's BS. All right, anything abominable to the Lord you should not be doing to the best of your ability. No, there isn't really clean pure food here. All right, everything is defiled. All right, but you can try your best. Okay. So now it reads number 9. Daniel 1:9 says, now Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. All right, showed favor to him. Okay, like it just said that. Verse 10, it says, and the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse, liking then to the children which are for your sort? Then shall ye make me in danger my head to the king. So, which the NLT is going to spell it out a little bit more clear. All right, but what he's saying to him is Daniel wants to avoid eating the king's meat or the dainties. All right, which it didn't use the word dainties here, but if you go look that up, that's more than likely what it was. All right, all the junk food basically. All right, Daniel wanted to avoid that. So the eunuch, the one that he had favor in, was asking Daniel, like, well, the king will be able to tell if you don't eat this stuff. Okay? So, and here's Daniel's reply. Daniel chapter 1 again in verse 11, it says, Then Daniel said to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give pulse to eat, and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So basically, try this out for 10 days, okay, and then, or for a matter of time. And then if we look like we haven't been, because I think this guy, all right, the eunuch thought that or the one that the eunuch appointed thought that he didn't know anything about the healthiness of these posts. Okay, so he was afraid that they were going to waste away with just posts and water. All right, Daniel was like, look, man, check it out. Let us do this. 10 days. See us if we look emaciated, basically, or wasted away, or not wasted away. All right, but if we look any worse off than what the children that eat the post foods is, then deal with us as you may, okay, or as the situation calls for, okay. So verse 14 it says, so he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. So they looked healthier. Right? They were in better case than if they would have been eating those, from the king's table. Okay. Verse 16, it says, Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. As for these 4 children, Yahweh Baal Shem Yahushai gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and the astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the first year of King Cyrus. All right, so I just wanted to go ahead and read Daniel chapter 1 since we read Daniel chapter 2. It's important to go ahead and go back to that chapter and get this history, okay? So, hope this came through us sincere and edifying. And with that, all praise to Yahweh, in the name of his Son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the Prophets of Doom. These are where I have learned this truth, and these are where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.